The following program is a Town of Colonie television production of the William K. Sanford Town Library.
I'm Mary Rozak, Director of Communications for Albany County, and this is Albany County News. In the next half hour or so, you're going to hear about HEAP, an interesting program that maybe you might qualify for, or you may be able to pass on some information to someone who may need some help. And joining me today is Tom Dolan, the Administrator for Cornell Cooperative Extension of Albany County, who is going to talk about HEAP, and that is the Home Energy Assistance Program.
Correct.
All right, welcome, Tom. So talk to me about what the Home Energy Assistance Program, what does that mean?
Okay. The basic premise of HEAP is to assist income eligible individuals and families defray some of the cost of heating their homes in the winter. That's the main purpose of it.
So when we're talking about helping to defray, we're talking about actual money to go for oil or for propane or for any of
Correct. However you heat your house, the money will go towards that, and the money comes in form of a direct payment to the vendor. So in the case of National Grid, which is by and far the biggest
the supplier?
Recipient of HEAP money ends up at National Grid. The payment goes directly from Albany County. In this case, we're going to talk about Albany County. From Albany County directly to National Grid. So
how does the process work, and how does one know if they are qualified? Because we know over the years, some years better than others, we had for home heating bills, but over the years, the heating requirements change. It may be a cold winter, and all of a sudden, someone who didn't qualify before may say, I think I need some help. What are the qualifications?
Yes, the main qualifier is income-based, and that's based on the size of your household, but also you need to be responsible for paying the heat in your home.
Okay.
So there are some living situations where the person who lives in the house may not pay the heat.
Okay. So let's say that we're talking about, a family of four.
Okay.
So if we're talking about a family of four, a husband, a wife, and two children, and it's been a tough time. You don't want to have to choose between food and heat. Right. What are the qualifications? Okay.
The income qualifications are gross income of less than $4,423 a month, and that's gross income. Everything in HEAP is gross with the exception of the Medicare deduction. People pay Medicare, we deduct, it's usually $104.90. Those are usually people on Social Security, and they have the Medicare taken directly out of their Social Security check. Other than that, in the HEAP world, we talk about gross income.
So so you have an idea in terms of dollars. Where does someone go? Does someone go to the Department of Social Services? Is someone coming to Cornell Cooperative Extension?
If the person wants to know if they're income eligible in Albany County, the best, easiest way for that is for them to call my office, which is located in Ravenna, and that's 756-8650. There's also the Cooperative Extension website, which has that information on it, the Albany County Department of Social Services website, which has that income eligibility information on it, as well as the State Office of Temporary Disability Assistance. Those would all have the income guidelines and the basic documentation that a person would need in order to apply.
So someone can actually go online first before they would and take a look to see if they have any questions.
You could go to the OTDA website, mybenefits.com, and they have a screening tool that will not only tell you if you're eligible for HEAP, but for any other social service program. But if you're just interested in HEAP, looking at any of those websites and seeing if you meet this income eligibility, that's the best place to start.
So you start out by looking online, and then let's say you call or you need to go and visit and actually do paperwork, right?
Correct.
There's paperwork involved.
Yes.
it probably says online what you need to bring with you, but why don't we go over some of those things?
The first piece of information you'll need is identity for each person in the household, and that could be driver's license, passport, birth certificate, social security card. In any event, you will need to have a social security number for each person applying in the house. If you don't supply that, that'll slow down your application. You will be asked for that. You would need to document where you live, and that could be a rent receipt, a lease, mortgage bill, sewer, water.
Well, maybe even the very bill, the heating bill, right?
The heating bill you can use as long as the bill is in your name.
Okay.
And income information for the last 4 weeks. So if you're employed, we want to see the last 4 pay stubs if you get paid weekly, 2 pay stubs if you get paid every other week.
Okay.
In the case of someone who's receiving Social Security, SSI, workers' compensation, unemployment, if you have that initial letter that establishes your eligibility for it and the amount that you'll get each month, that's the most useful things.
Okay.
If you don't have that or you can't find that, we can walk you through what would satisfy Department of Social Services. That's the best thing to have. One of
Now,
those.
when someone is coming in for help, how much help is someone going to get? I'm assuming it's based on income, but there must be a threshold.
There is. So if you heat your house with, say, let's use National Grid, so either electric from National Grid or natural gas from National Grid, you can receive up to between $375 and $425, and that's a one-time payment.
Okay.
And that determines where in that continuum, or you would fall as if you were in the higher end of the income bracket, you would get less money. If you have a vulnerable person in your household, someone under 6, someone over 60, or someone that receives SSI, you would receive the highest amount, $425.
Okay.
Now, for a deliverable fuel, which would be oil, propane, wood, coal, corn, wood pellets, you could receive up to $625.
Okay.
Again, the people with the higher end within their spectrum would receive $25 less, and people with the lower incomes would receive $25 more. And again, a vulnerable person would receive, the highest amount.
So certainly that's not. It's definitely a help, but it's not a lot of money.
Right.
Are people coming? Do people come early and sign up in the season? And when does the season typically start for HEAP money?
Usually it starts like the second Monday of November. And that's when people can go apply in person. The mail-outs start at the end of August, usually right when you're trying to finish your vacation. We start getting those applications.
Yep.
And someone who receives HEAP in the previous season that has one of those vulnerable populations I mentioned earlier, they would be eligible to have an application mailed to them by New York State. It's somewhat pre-filled out.
Okay.
They basically just need to fill in a couple of things and mail it back to us.
Okay.
So our HEAP season as an alternate certifier starts usually very beginning of September. We have ones ready to go to Albany County DSS.
And when would payments likely start? When
The earliest they can be sent out is the beginning of the first day of the HEAP season. So the larger,
which is the second Monday.
the second Monday in November typically.
Okay.
A provider like a vendor like National Grid, which would receive thousands of payments, those get sent over in a bulk transaction. So then once National Grid receives it, they have by law 30 days to actually apply it to your account.
Okay.
So a lot of people get hung up on I was told the money was sent to National Grid, and indeed it was,
okay.
but it just hasn't been posted to your account.
And how long does the HEAP season run? Because I'm assuming some people will apply early on, but others may not realize that they may need help or may lose a job or something might happen.
Right. Some people don't realize that there's even HEAP or that they're eligible for it, or a circumstance will change in their life or in their income stream. Or some people try to tough it out for the season, and they think they can get through. Maybe they have enough money to do one oil fill up, which is usually like 125 or 150 gallon minimum delivery. So maybe at the beginning of the year they can pull together $450, but after Christmas, the beginning of January, maybe they don't have the money to do that. So we see big in the beginning of the year and then big, again in January for that season.
But when does typically the HEAP money stop? I mean, I know it's until it runs out, right?
It's never run out before. It's been, as far as I can recall, it's never run out before it tentatively was scheduled. So right now it's tentatively scheduled, I think, through the end of March. So, but it's better to apply earlier rather than later.
Sure.
Now, a question I also get asked a lot is, if I've applied for HEAP but I haven't got my benefit yet, will they run out of money? Well, Albany County actually reports back to the state the potential liability of the amount of money for applications that they currently hold, and they do that on a weekly basis. So the state is always figuring out week by week whether they're going to have enough money to fulfill all the obligations. So we've never been in a situation so far where a person has applied.
We're knocking.
Yes,
we're knocking.
and not received the benefit. I wanted to mention something you brought up, the cost, the benefit that a person might receive from HEAP versus the cost of heating their home for the winter. In New York State, which is obviously a big state with many different climates in it, and also different sized homes, the average cost of heating a house in New York State is $900. So this state
For the season.
For the season.
Okay.
So the HEAP benefits, HEAP guidelines are statewide. It's the same throughout the state. So while we might live in Albany County, which some years has much worse winter than, say, New York City, the cost and the benefits are statewide. So your HEAP benefit might pay for half of your energy costs for the year.
Okay.
So that brings up two things. One is there's also a component called emergency HEAP,
Okay.
which opens.
Let's talk about that.
Which opens in January 3rd. It's usually the first Monday or the first work day after the New Year's, January 1st. And that is for someone who's in an emergency situation. Now, there's a standard definition of emergency, everyone has their own definition of emergency, but for HEAP purposes, if you use a utility, an emergency is you've run out of fuel, or you have less than, you've had your power shut off. I'm talking about utilities, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Or you have a disconnect notice. So usually in the winter, you'll get a series of disconnect notices, and then you'll get a 72-hour notice. So anywhere along that disconnect process, you can apply for emergency HEAP.
Let me ask you this. So is there a big, I don't know, it's a fallacy, a rumor out there that things could not be disconnected in the wintertime, or heat could not be shut off in the winter?
Absolutely
That's a fallacy.
false.
Okay.
That's absolutely false. There is usually a moratorium, a voluntary moratorium by National Grid, where they won't shut you off usually between Christmas and New Year's, and sometimes depending upon the day of the week that Christmas or and New Year's falls on, might be a few days before and after, but they absolutely can turn you off. And they can turn you off if you have small children in your house. They can turn you off if you're over 60. So that's a really important point, is if someone gets a disconnect and they believe that they're HEAP eligible, they should contact us immediately. So it's a lot easier to stop someone from being turned off than to get them turned back on in a timely manner.
So as we talk about emergency HEAP, so let's say someone has applied for and received their HEAP money, and they've gotten the maximum that they can get, but now they're in an emergency situation. Does the emergency HEAP, is that something that they could apply for, or is that for someone, is it just an expedited situation that emergency HEAP is applying to?
Emergency HEAP, it has to be after January 3rd, and they must have exhausted their initial HEAP benefit.
Initial HEAP, so,
Right.
okay.
But
So-
if someone were to tell us that they had a 72-hour disconnect, even though it would be their first HEAP application, the Albany County DSS HEAP staff would prioritize that. And, we make every effort we can to make sure someone doesn't get turned off.
Sure. And I should clarify this. So the Cornell Cooperative Extension is an alternate HEAP certifier. So
Correct.
you take the paperwork in, you school people on what it is, making sure that they have what
Yep.
they need, and yet it really is, it's DSS that makes the determination about eligibility.
Correct. They're the only ones by state, I don't know if it's a law or statute or regulation, that is allowed to approve a benefit or to promise a benefit to a vendor.
Okay.
So you can come do everything with us.
And that's the process that people should do.
Yes,
They
and
should
that's
go
what
to
they
you.
should do. Because we only do HEAP as far as social services programs go. As you know, at 162 Washington Avenue, there's a lot of other things that happen in there, and people don't stop having emergencies for temporary assistance or for Medicaid or domestic violence, all the
All
the
other
dozens of
social
things that they
services,
do
sure,
there.
sure.
So it's usually easier to come to one of our offices, either 230 Green Street, or if you go to Faith Plaza in Ravenna.
That's
Now,
right.
we don't have like a large population in Ravenna, but some people prefer, especially if they live outside the city of Albany, once they're in their car, they find it easier to deal with Ravenna,
Sure.
we're in a shopping center.
Sure, it
We
makes
have
it
unlimited
easier.
parking. So the other place people can apply is we also go to Cohoes once a week to the Cohoes Senior Center at Cayuga Plaza from 1 p.m. till 3:30. And again, that just allows the people who live in Cohoes, and we have people from Ward of Lead-Easer, it's just easier for them to find their way to Cohoes on a Tuesday afternoon rather than the commitment of going to downtown Albany for the day, taking a bus.
Sure.
Or driving your car and paying for parking.
Sure. No, it certainly makes sense. I want to remind everyone that I'm talking with Tom Dolan today from Cornell Cooperative Extension, the administrator for Cornell Cooperative Extension of Albany County. We are talking about HEAP. Let's talk about some numbers. How many people actually in Albany County are taking advantage?
Sure.
And I don't say that in a bad way.
Yeah, no.
Are actually utilizing, I should say.
Utilizing is a good word, and just another common misconception about people that receive HEAP. The majority of the people that receive HEAP that come through either our Ravenna office or our Albany office are employed. Most of them some of them are employed 2 jobs in the family or 2 or 3 jobs in the family. It's just they're not in a position employment-wise to bring home enough money, to make enough money to meet all of their needs. And this, because HEAP is available based on income, if you fall into the income category, it's something that you can get some money to defray your overall costs. There's like, if you have car insurance, you can't go anywhere and get basically help for that. That's something you have to pay. If you need your car to go to work every day,
Sure.
you have to make sure that's paid.
Well, you know what, and we've talked about eligibility for a
Yep.
family. You know what, let's make it even a little simpler.
Yep.
You know, there's a senior population out
Yes.
there. And as we thankfully are living longer, a single man or woman
Right.
may find, if they have their Social Security, may find that they're on a limited income
Yep.
and may have some troubles. But at the same time, they may not think that they're eligible.
Right. A person who, a one-person household can make $2,300 a month. Most people, if you're just relying on Social Security or a small pension along with your Social Security, they do not make $2,300. We see a lot of seniors that have incomes in the $700-800 range for a month. through our office in Ravenna, it fluctuates from year to year, but we do roughly 2,500 applications out of that office. Probably 1,400 are seniors.
Really?
Our office on Green Street, about 1,700 or 1,800 a year. It's somewhat less than half, but not that much less. So probably in total, 50% of the applications that we take are people that are 60 and older.
Is that something? Is that a trend that's increasing? Has that been the norm?
I think as they keep getting older, yes.
Sure.
They live longer. More people enter that pool.
Wow.
So yeah, we do see it going up. More of them know about it. There's less stigma about receiving it. I was trying to figure out today how many years I've been doing this. At least 12, maybe 15. Maybe I don't.
So you've got some history.
Well, at least 15 years actually.
Yep.
I started probably 1998. So whatever that is. Seniors in particular were a little shy about getting the benefit. Now, their neighbors get it. They help each other. They'll pick up an extra application for their neighbors, or they'll call and say, "I got mine automatically this year. I was talking to my neighbor. Can you send her one?" Or so it seems to be less of a stigma. I always explain it to seniors when I talk to them on the phone. This is part of the tax money you've paid your entire life.
Sure.
And if you're eligible for it, then you should get it.
What are some of the things when people come in? What are some of the things that stand as obstacles for moving the process along quickly? I know you mentioned earlier that if someone doesn't have, Social Security card is necessary for everyone living in the household. But let's talk about some of the things up front that people have to make sure they bring with them.
Documentation is a stumbling block for a certain percentage of the applicants. Having the last 4 pay stubs is problematic for people. I've been surprised over the years, or I guess I'm not surprised anymore, a lot of people use their glove compartments as a filing cabinet for their pay stubs.
It's a dangerous habit.
Dangerous habit. Every once in a while, I know I clean my car out, so if I did that, I'd be getting rid of them once in a while. So getting that, the way around that is if you lose it, if you ask your boss to give you either duplicates or a letter. A lot of people are reluctant to go to their boss to tell them. That seems to be the one thing that people are somewhat reluctant about.
Sure.
They don't want to go say to their boss, I'm receiving benefits from anywhere.
Sure.
Because they probably have a reputation at work for going to work every day, showing up, and
like you said, the stigma it seems to have lessened, but there still is that.
There's still
pride.
Some pride, exactly.
When you're talking about seniors, if about 50% that are coming in are senior citizens, some of the things they're not going to have a pay stub, and I know Social Security, everything is going electronic these days. Everything is into the bank. So how do they bring something in that meets the qualifications?
The best thing is if they have that award letter that comes at the beginning.
Yeah, but you know what? How many people still have that?
A lot of seniors hold on to their paperwork, as opposed to the rest of us, which I guess I won't be able to say that much longer.
But you know what? I'm going to make a note right now that's one of the really important pieces of paperwork.
If they don't have that, if you received HEAP in the previous season, that should be on file.
Okay.
And we can use the previous years because if there's a cost of living, it's the same for everyone, so we can figure it out.
So that's a good point, actually, when you're saying if stuff is on file. So if you've gotten it before, you don't necessarily need to bring all the documents?
Correct.
Or what? Okay.
That's a good point. The Albany County DSS HEAP staff, and I guess the rest of the social services staff, have to scan in all of documentation for all of their programs. So theoretically, it's all in the computer.
In theory, that Social Security card is on file somewhere.
Correct.
Okay.
So if someone got HEAP in the previous season and nothing else in their household has changed, like they haven't moved, no new people in or out of the household, same vendor, all they would have to give us is employment for the last 4 weeks.
Okay.
Or even more broadly, income for the last 4 weeks. If there are some people that have other types of income. but not Social Security, but working or investments or something like that. So for someone who received HEAP last year, and again, everything else is the same, it's a pretty easy process of filling out the application, make sure the application's complete, make sure that it's signed, and make sure that you have the income information for the last 4 weeks.
So about how long does the process take? I know that probably if you're inundated with things, it takes a little bit longer, but what's the typical turnaround time?
It takes 30 days.
Okay.
30 business days.
Wow.
And that's what the regulation requires, that it be taken care of in 30 days. But as you pointed out, like when we start getting the mail-ins at the beginning of the year, there's not other people showing up at DSS trying to apply for HEAP, or HEAP staff issuing emergency benefits or contacting vendors, that sort of thing. So it goes a little quicker. And then again, after we get through the first rush of November and the first rush of January, things smooth out a little bit, and things get done quicker.
And like you said, emergency HEAP, it goes very quickly.
Yes.
By default. Heating repair and replacement program and cooling component, two other components of HEAP.
If a person is HEAP eligible and they own their house and the heating equipment in it, then they can apply to have that repaired or replaced depending upon the quotes from certified vendors. So the process is you come in, you apply for HEAP. It's the same application, but even if you just did one last week, you still have to come in person, do a HEAP application, and we'd walk them through a quick checklist to make sure that their furnace is indeed not working. So, like for instance, do you have a thermostat with batteries in it? Does it have batteries in it? Is the furnace, if you have a switch, is it on the on position?
Okay.
And then also a screening tool to make sure that they own the property and that they own the furnace and that they've used it within the last year.
Okay.
So that would be done through a deed if it's a house, and then there's another series of documentation if it's a trailer and you don't own the land. And then we would look for, if it's National Grid, for instance, do they have heating bills within the last year? And that would indicate that they, is the use of gas higher in the winter than in the summer.
And the same would be true for the cooling component, for any kind of air conditioning component.
Right, exactly.
Okay. All right. We are running low on time, and I want to make sure that people know where they need to go. Would the best place to go right away be the website? The website,
yep. You can go to either the ccealbany.org, I think it is.
Okay. Well, the Cornell Cooperative Extension of Albany County. You do a Google search.
I checked on that, yes.
Or go to albanycounty.com.
Albany County, yes.
Department of Social Services.
Yes, Social Services has a good tool for that.
Okay. Well, Tom Dolan, I thank you for coming in to talk about HEAP, and the word is, in order to stay warm, get that paperwork done early.
Yes, and hold on to those pay stubs.
Hold on. All right. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
This is Tom Dolan, the Administrator for Cornell Cooperative Extension of Albany County. I'm Mary Rozak, Director of Communications for Albany County. This has been Albany County News. I'll see you again soon.